Greetings and welcome to Chant a Day. Happy Sunday, everyone. This is the day that righteousness has made. Let us rejoice in this day. Yeah, let us rejoice in this day. Let's get this set. Thank you so much for joining Chant a Day. Today's psalm is 86. That's right, 86. And I have my hot tea. My other cup broke yesterday, and I like that cup. Anyway, when something breaks, a glass or a cup or something spills, it's blessed, right? You are blessed. And let's see, why can't I get... hot tea. So the psalm today, I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart is acceptable in the sight of what is right. So today's psalm is 86. 86. 86. Does anyone ever read Psalm 86? Put it in the comments if you've read Psalm 86 before. This psalm is titled, Great is Your Steadfast Love. Who is your? Your is the Most High. Your is compassion. Your is Redeemer. Your is the facilitator, the healer, the comforter, the Most High, the omnipresent one, like I said yesterday in my psalm. So great is the steadfast love is the title of Psalm 86. So I ask that the words of my mouth, again, and the meditation of my heart is acceptable in the sight of what is right. I want to start off with an important piece of this in when we are communing with the Most High, when we are communing with that righteousness, people call it, they are going into prayer, they're praying. I go deeper. I use the word communication with the Most High. And communication with the Most High, you are expressing your feelings. You're talking about how you feel. You're talking about the things that are bothering you and that you feel a need for more strength. So when you're asking for strength, you want to make sure that you are also giving thanks for the strength that you do have. Because oftentimes we want this, we want that, but then we're not giving thanks for what we already have. Okay? Like, I already have $1. Thank you for that $1. And it's important that we do that we give thanks. Because giving thanks is a big part of the finding safety in that. So there we go. So the psalm today, great is the steadfast love of righteousness. So the steadfast love is coming from a good place, a righteous place. Hi, Alina. This is a Chant a Day. Keep your comments blessed and your words uplifting. That's all that I ask on this channel. So thank you so much. I am blessed, highly favored, and wonderfully made. And I do hope that you too are the same. So, as we get into the psalm, I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart is acceptable in the sight of what is right, what is good, compassion, and love. I have my prayer beads, my chanting bowl, and we're going to begin. So, the first verse is, incline an ear, O righteousness, and answer I and I. For I and I am poor and needy. Okay? I and I am poor and needy. So when we talk about, when the psalm is talking about inclining your ear, the righteousness and love is goodness, mercy, kindness to all that are downtrodden, hurting, and needy. Okay? I commune with the Most High that those that are in need find the Most High's unending love and guidance. I commune with the Most High that those who are oppressed and downtrodden be lifted up, be filled, lifted up out of their own persecutions that bind them down, that they may be free of the hatred and cursing that is within them. So, this is a note that I have for Psalm 86, verse 1. Gracious, good, righteous, Most High, give thanks for this day, that I may write these words for future generations, and that these words may be accepted in the sight of what is right, sound, and loving righteousness. Guide I and I, good, gracious righteousness, to find happiness in whatever I do, and that I can find a career that gives me strength to help others and be of service to those that are needy. This was written in 2012. For only righteousness is ready to forgive, and plenteous in mercy to all them that call upon righteousness. That was verse 5. So, this psalm resonates very much in terms of how listening is important. And not even just listening, but inclining your ear to listen to righteousness, to the words inside your heart that's telling you to do the right thing. And listening to that, because that is going to answer those that are poor and those that are needy. That righteousness is going to answer them. And as I said in the psalm yesterday, that righteousness is going to save them and secure them in their time of need. Verse 2. Keep I and I life, for I and I am good. Save I and I is a servant. I serve goodness, I serve mercy. And I trust in goodness, and I trust in mercy and compassion, that is what is going to be around me. And once I give that, I'm going to receive it. So I trust in righteousness, because righteousness is a God. Righteousness, mercy, compassion is a God. I am going to worship that. I'm going to worship goodness, mercy, compassion. I'm not going to make an idol to represent that. It's represented in the things that I do and the things that I speak and how I deal with people, how I interact with individuals, how I'm honest and trustworthy and have integrity and humility, and I care about the humanity around me. So when you trust in righteousness and mercy, that becomes your saving grace, and you're not divided into factions or groups that are divided up into the names of what righteousness is and what that looks like. So in verse 2, keep I and I life. For I and I am good. Okay, we already translated that. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. So verse 2, I just translated that to what that means. Righteousness is the one that you serve. Righteousness is your God. That is your Savior. That is your everything. That's your first love. Is that goodness, that mercy, that kindness, and that compassion that is going to be the saving grace of your life. So in verse 3, we talk about being gracious. Be gracious to I and I, O righteousness, for to righteousness do I cry all day. Like, oh my goodness, why is this happening? This is wrong. Righteousness is listening to my cry as I weep for the wrongs that have been done to me. So all day your bed has been your tears. Your tears. So verse 4, gladden the life of the one that serves righteousness. So they're not weary of doing good. Gladden the lives of those who are serving righteousness. For to righteousness, oh, righteousness, do I lift up I and I life. So I and I life is lifted up to what is good, what is mercy, what is kindness, what is love. That is what my life is lifted up to. So righteousness is good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all that call upon righteousness. So listen, O righteousness, to I and I words. Listen to I and I plea for grace. Verse 7, in the day of trouble I call upon righteousness, for righteousness answers I and I. So in the day of trouble, when people attack you, you call on righteousness. You do not fall into wrongness, answer back, fight people. That's not what you do. Mosquitoes. So in verse 7, we see exactly what I've been talking about, that righteousness is going to ultimately save you, and it's going to answer you in the day of trouble. Because how does that work? It works because you're going to hear the right thing to do. It's going to answer you because you're going to be like, what do I do? And it's going to say, you know what? The person who hurt you, send them some flowers. The person that cursed you out, be kind to them. So that is what righteousness is going to be with you in that day of trouble, when things are hard and things are not working, or it's a struggle. Remember that goodness and mercy is going to be there. So in verse 8, it's a comparison. There is none as righteousness among the gods, because there's a lot of gods. There's a God of war, there's a God of this, there's a God of that, there's a God of all this. But the God of righteousness, right? There is none as righteousness, because that's all that one is. There's nothing else that one can do but to do good. So, nor are there any works as righteous works. No comparison at all. So in verse 9, all the nations righteousness have made shall come and worship before righteousness, and shall glorify the name of righteousness, whatever that name is. Mercy, goodness, compassion, love, kindness, right? So there is no other works as righteous works. And the nations, remember I said, only righteousness will exalt a nation. That's all. And verse 10, for righteousness is great and does wondrous things. Righteousness alone is the Most High. That is all that righteousness is. The Most High. Right? That's it. That is it. In verse 11 now, in verse 11, it's another plea. It's a plea of teach me. Teach I righteous ways. You know, teach I how to do good to folks that didn't do good to me. You know, teach me how to be kind. Teach me how to be compassionate. Teach me the ways of righteousness, that I may walk in righteousness' truth. Right? You're stepping into that righteous truth. Unite I heart to fear the names of righteousness. I fear compassion because I don't want to be the opposite of that. I want to be compassion. So I fear doing the wrong thing. I fear, not being merciful to folks. So when you are looking at this psalm and verse 11 specifically, you want to bring your heart into a unity of righteousness, that's all that is in you, and that it's so much so that you fear the name of righteousness. You fear this name to the point where you do not want to be the opposite. You want to be that. You want to be the parts of the scriptures that are people showing kindness and mercy. You don't want to be representing the part of the scripture that's about betrayal, like, the kiss of betrayal. You don't want that. So in verse 12 now, this is what you do. So in verse 11, you're asking, teach me, teach me. Verse 12 now, you're explaining that this is what you're going to do. You're going to give thanks to righteousness, right? With your full heart. And you're going to glorify the names of righteousness for all time to come. So great is the steadfast love toward I. Have that faith to know that steadfast love is for you. It's there. And that steadfast love is delivering your life from the depths of hell. Yes, that steadfast love is going to deliver your life from confusion. It's going to deliver your life from strife and war and all of that. In verse 14, it speaks of righteousness. And it talks about communicating to righteousness about insolent folks that have risen up against you. And I talk about this, the people who are, they want to hurt you and they want you, they just don't want the best for you. These are the folks that are banding of ruthlessness, seeking I life, and they do not set righteousness before them. Okay, verse 15 now steps in. Only righteousness, only righteousness is merciful and gracious, slow to anger. Slow to anger. That means that then righteousness is not going to be quick to get angry and curse at you. Righteousness is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. So, when people are holding people captive, people do that. They hold them captive physically. There's slavery going on. There's emotional captivity. There's an intellectual captivity, and there's a social captivity. People capture people and isolate them from other people. When that happens, people who are the victims of that, they pop off. When I speak about pop off, they attack people. They attack. They get angry very fast. They curse you quickly. If you make a mistake, they want to call you a name quickly. So when you see that happening, this is what happens when people have been captured by an entity that is not righteousness. Because when you're captured by righteousness, that's what you do. You do good. You don't get angry fast. You're slow to anger. You're in steadfast love. And you have a faithfulness. You're faithful to righteousness, to grace, to mercy. Right? This is what you're faithful to. But when people are held captive and they're being used, their energies are being sucked up, and they're not getting anything in return, there's no reciprocity, in other words. This is what happens. They're going to be angry. So when you see somebody angry, they're cursing at you, they're doing this, something is going on that somebody is taking from them and not pouring in. So they have nothing left but anger. Okay? They have nothing left but to be angry all the time. So in verse 15 is very important because it steps in like, look, righteousness is not about being angry. Righteousness is about steadfast love and faithfulness. So in verse 16 now, it's like, turn to I and be gracious to I. Give strength to I and save I. So this is what is going to save I. This is what is going to be there for I in times of trouble. In times of trouble. This is what is going to be there. So in verse 17 now, verse 17 sums it all up. It's hot. I'm in my little library and it's have a fan going, but it's just still hot. Anyway, so the ending verse 17, it talks about showing a sign of righteousness. The favor of righteousness, showing a sign of that. Because those who hate, okay, those who hate are going to see these signs of favor of righteousness and be put to shame. Because righteousness is the one that strengthens and comforts I. That's what righteousness does. It strengthens and comforts I. And there's a sign. It's verse 17. Show I a sign of righteousness' favor. Because those that hate righteousness is going to see the favor of righteousness upon the righteous, and they're going to be put to shame. Like, how they got that? How they get that blessed? How did they get that this? And how did they get that? Because of righteousness, of kindness, of love. This is how it happens. It's raining outside. This is how it happens. So when we talk about goodness and mercy and love and righteousness, we're talking about the Most High. Selah and Selah again. That was the Psalm 86 today. 86. And the words today is inner peace. I don't use the word peace, I use the word tranquility. So I talk about the tranquility of righteousness is mine to live and mine to share. So that's how I translate the words today. Inner peace. It's inner tranquility, inner calmness, an inner feeling of self-assuredness. It's not really a cockiness or boastfulness, but it's more of a I'm okayness. Okay, I'm okay. So love and tranquility flourishes in I and I awareness of the divine presence within, flowing from I and I righteous center. Tranquility calms I and I emotions, right? Clarifies I and I thoughts, relaxes I and I body, and radiates to everyone around I and I. So when tranquility eludes I open I and I self to anything that may be blocking its flow and invite anything that's blocking the flow of tranquility to come forward for healing. When I am holding on to resentment or unforgiveness, I commune with righteousness for the willingness to forgive, affirming divine love through I and I forgives and releases all bitterness. When fear and worry seep into I and I thoughts, I remember righteousness is the only presence and power active in the universe, affirming. Faith dissolves fear and restores tranquility and calmness and healing. I align I and I thoughts and feelings with righteousness's indwelling presence. Okay? That means that righteousness dwells within to live evermore tranquil. Give thanks, hi El Su. Greetings of love and tranquility with great thanks for the Most High daily. I receive that and I return that to you in the fullness of joy and the gladness of righteousness. We give thanks for this day. I have my hot tea. And I'm thankful that you all could join me on this Chant day. I am, as you can see, I have some paintings in the background. I am selling those as well. The word of the day is supported by Romans chapter 14, verse 19. Let I and I then pursue what makes for calmness and tranquility and for mutual upbuilding. Right? Let's pursue that. Let's pursue that. Instead of pursuing dishonesty, let's pursue what makes for tranquility, to bring calm into people's lives. Let's pursue that. Right? Let's give people that. Romans chapter 14, verse 19. Okay? Let's pursue what makes for love, what makes for tranquility, what makes for kindness and compassion. Let's pursue that. And for mutual upbuilding. We're going to mutually work together and build, right? We're going to mutually work together and build. This is not a site for political, this is not a site for political anything. This is a site for giving thanks, and when you come on this site with anything other than that, you will be removed. You will be removed. Okay? And you will get flagged because of your inappropriate comments. Okay? When you have inappropriate comments, you're going to be removed. So, as the rain is falling, I'm giving thanks for the word today from Romans. You got to pursue what makes for tranquility. Those who come onto my channel and they're commenting in that nefarious or counter-righteous way will be removed because you're not pursuing tranquility for mutual upbuilding. You're not. You're pursuing your own agenda and your own selfish narratives. Okay, this is not a selfish channel. This is a channel where it's all of I and I as a community of folks that are seeking to do good, to do righteousness, and to look at the word from the scriptures, from the Psalms, in a way that liberates, that promotes this idea and this narrative that I'm included in the scripture. I'm good, I'm righteous, I'm not my bad. People use those words, my bad. You're not bad. Stop doing that. Stop erring on the side of bad. Stop erring on the side of unrighteousness. Stop erring on the side of hate and discriminate. Don't err on the side of that. Err on the side of goodness and mercy and love. So, when we look at the verse today, quickly as we wrap up, the verse today is coming from Jeremiah. Ooh, Jeremiah 33, verse 2 to 3 speaks of, this is what righteousness speaks. Ones and ones, I and I, must know that righteousness made the earth. Righteousness is who formed the earth and established the earth. Righteousness is the name of the Most High. Call to I, and I will answer you and tell great and unsearchable things that you don't know. So call on righteousness, and righteousness is going to show you things that you have not even known of, right? Great and unsearchable. You can't search it on Google. You can't search it on the internet. So Jeremiah, you got to read the book of Jeremiah, because Jeremiah went through some things. So Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 2 to 3. This is what the Lord speaks. He who made the earth, the Lord who formed the earth and established the earth, the Lord is his name. Call to me, the Lord, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. So when we talk about God, Lord, and Jesus, I talk about them in terms of righteousness, mercy, compassion. So call on that. Call on the righteousness. Call on the mercy and the love and the kindness. Call on that. Because when you do, you're going to be answered. And righteousness is going to tell all the great and unsearchable things you don't know. So that's who you call. Okay, yes, I have a therapist. I call my therapist. But I call on righteousness first. And righteousness directs me to what I need to do. So it's beautiful when you are living in that space and living in that place of goodness, mercy, kindness, and love and compassion. And I'm going to keep repeating it over and over because you need to get there. We all need to get there. Selah and Selah again. Thank you so much for joining Chant Day. This has been a beautiful Sunday rise. As we rise, I don't use the word rise sin, because we're not going to rise into sin. We're going to rise into love and righteousness. Rise righteousness. So we're going to rise into that. Have a blessed and beautiful day, everyone. Have a blessed day. Beautiful day, everyone.